Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, classmate. I will be your reporter for Chapter 4, which is Assessing Student Learning Outcomes. Outcomes assessment is in the process of gathering information on whether the instruction, services, and activities that the program provides are producing the desired student learning outcomes. So we have here the principles of good practice in assessing learning outcomes. We have 13 principles. So the first one is the assessment of student learning starts with the institution's mission and core values. There should be a clear statement on the kinds of learning that the institution values most for its students. It is very important for an institution to have a clear mission and core values for us to be able to align everyone in the organization and ensure that everyone is working towards a single purpose. It also helps to increase efficiency and productivity in the organization. Number 2, assessment works best when the program has clear statement of objectives aligned with the institutional mission and core values. Such alignment ensures clear, shared, and implementable objectives. Assessment is a goal-oriented process. Assessment should reveal how well students have learned, what we want them to learn, while instruction ensures that they learned it. For this to occur, assessment learning objectives need to be closely aligned to the mission and core values so that they reinforce one another. Clear, shared, implementable goals are the cornerstones for assessment that is focused and useful. Number 3, outcomes-based assessment focuses on the student activities that will still be relevant after formal schooling concludes. The approach is to design assessment activities which are observable and less abstract, such as to determine the student's ability to write a paragraph, which is more observable than to determine the student's verbal ability. When we say outcome-based assessment, it is the deliberate collection of evidence of student learning based on outcomes. It yields as marked relative to the outcomes rather than other students. It is also still relevant after school ends or after graduation. To be able to do that, you need to design your assessment activities that are observable and less abstract. Assessment requires attention not only to outcomes but also equally to the activities and experiences that lead to the attainment of learning outcomes. These are supporting student activities. Assessment requires attention to outcomes but also equally to the experiences that lead those outcomes. Information about outcomes is high importance where students end up matters greatly. But to improve outcomes, we need to know about students' experience along the way, about the curriculum, teaching and kind of student effort that lead to a particular outcomes. Assessment can help us understand which students learn best, under what conditions, with such knowledge comes the capacity to improve the whole of their learning. Assessment works best when it is continuous, ongoing, and not episodic. Assessment should be cumulative because improvement is best achieved through a linked series of activities done over time in an instructional cycle. Assessment works best when it is ongoing or not episodic. Assessment is a process whose power is cumulative. Though isolated one shot, assessment can be better than none. Improvement over time is best fostered when assessment entails a link, a series of cohorts of students. It may mean collecting the examples of student performance or using the same instruments semester after semester. The point is to monitor progress toward intended goals in a spirit of continuous improvement. Along the way, the assessment process itself should be evaluated and refined in light of emerging insights. Begin by specifying clearly and exactly what you want to assess. What you want to assess are stated in your learning outcomes or lesson objectives. So it is important to know what you want to assess, and it must be stated in your lesson objectives or outcomes. Number 7. The intended learning outcome or lesson objective, not content, is the basis of the assessment task. You use content in the development of the assessment tool and task, but it is the attainment of your learning outcome, not content that you want to assess. This is outcomes-based teaching and learning. When we say outcome-based teaching and learning, it is a curriculum design framework to teaching and learning that help you focuses on first identifying the intended outcome or goals of a module or program, and then aligning teaching, learning, and assessment to maximize the likelihood that students achieve those outcomes or goals. Number 8. Set your criterion of success or acceptable standard of success. It is against this established standard that you will interpret your assessment results. A criterion of success is a list of features that a teacher wants the children to include their work during the course of a lesson. It is a really good way of making children aware of what is expected of them and can also encourage them to extend themselves during the course of the lesson. For example, is a score of 7 out of 10 the highest possible score, acceptable, or considered success? Number 9. Make use of varied tools for assessment data gathering and multiple sources of assessment data. It is not pedagogically sound to rely on just one source of data gathered by only one assessment tool. Consider multiple intelligences and learning styles. DepEd Order Number 73, Series 2012 cites the use of multiple measures as one assessment guideline. Some of the examples of varied tools in assessing you can use are: the discussion is a teacher-centered, but also learner-centered. The teacher can use the oral recitation to get the attention of his students. Second is, you can make the paper and pencil test and activities in the books for the learner's assessment. This kind of assessments are considering the multiple intelligence, which is linguistic intelligence. Number 10. Learners must be given feedback about their performance. Feedback must be specific. Good work is a positive feedback and is welcome, but actually is not a very good feedback since it is not specific. A more specific, better feedback is you observe rules on subject-verb agreement and variety of sentences. 3 of your commas were misplaced. The teacher should give a good feedback whenever students are answering. That's why the student is motivated to speak up and to cooperate on the discussion. Number 11. Assessment should be on a real-world application and not on out-of-context drills. So how was this demonstrated? This principle is done when the teacher is sharing her experience about her favorite pastry shop and how it is being advertised to the people, and when she is saying the brand names of the product. Number 12. Emphasize on the assessment of higher order thinking. So how was this done? For example, it was done when she introduced to her student the topic about making a research paper, and she let them to have brainstorming about the research paper that they will be making. For the second example, he let his students to share their ideas and to explain the things that are there in the lesson. Samples of supporting student activities. For student learning outcome number 1, students can organize information from secondary sources as basis of a research topic. Some of the examples of supporting student activities are: number 1, practice differentiating source material and one's opinion. Number 2, reading articles and formulating an original paragraph from quotes, paraphrases, and summaries. For 3, writing of essays to develop the topic. Number 4, integrating bibliographic entries in appropriate format. For student learning outcome number 2, students apply principles of logical thinking and persuasive argument in writing. For supporting student activities number 1, forming opinion about the topic. Number 2, researching and writing about a variety of perspectives. Number 3, adapting style to the identified audience. Number 4, employing clear argument in writing. For student learning outcome number 3, students write multiple page essays complying with standard format and style. Supporting student activities number 1 is analyzing and evaluating text. Number 2, writing about a variety of perspectives on single topic. Number 3, adapting tone and style to address one's audience. Number 4, reviewing grammar and essay format and readings. Number 5, holding group discussion about various topics. So those are the 3 student learning outcomes for the samples of supporting student activities. The outcomes assessment phases and the instructional cycle. For phase 1, we have the institutional mission. Institutional mission statements provide various constituencies, students, faculty, legislators, or etc., where the institution's educational goals and guidance concerning the achievement of these goals. For example, is the DepEd mission, which is to protect and promote the right of every Filipino to quality, equitable, culture-based, and complete basic educations, where students learn in a child-friendly, gender-sensitive. For the phase 2, we have the program goals. Program goals are broad statements of the kinds of learning we hope students will achieve. They describe learning outcomes and concepts, what you want students to learn in general terms. For example, is clear communication and problem-solving skills. For phase 3, we have the subject objectives. Subject objectives are brief statements that describe what students will be expected to learn by the end of school year, course, unit, lesson, project, or class period. For example, this course is designed to prepare you for a professional writing experiences. By the end of the course, you should be able to identify the primary and secondary audiences of a text. Second, craft texts which take into consideration the needs of your primary audiences, and write an array of genre for a variety of purposes. For phase 4, we have the desired student learning outcomes. Learning outcomes are statements that describe significant and essential learning that learners have achieved and can reliably demonstrate at the end of a course or a program. In other words, learning outcomes identify what the learner will know and be able to do by the end of a course or a program. For example, the learner will have demonstrated the ability to make engine repairs on a variety of automobiles. In the above statement, the ability to make engine repairs implies that the person has the requisite knowledge to do so. For phase 5, we have diagnostic assessment. When we say diagnostic assessment, it is a type of assessment which examines what a student knows and can do prior to a learning program being implemented. Assessment of student skills and knowledge upon entry to the program provides a baseline against which to assess progress. For example, is journal or performance test. For phase 6, we have deciding on lesson focus. The first phase of a gradual release of responsibility model is the focus lesson. This is the time when the teacher is demonstrating, modeling, and sharing his or her thinking with students. Although this segment may be brief or 5 to 15 minutes, it is powerful. For phase 7, we have supporting student activities. Students apply principles of logical thinking and persuasive argument in writing. For instance, forming opinion about the topic, researching and writing about a variety of perspectives, adapting style to identified audience, and employing clear argument in writing. For phase 8, we have the formative assessment outcomes. Formative assessment refers to a wide variety of methods the teacher used to conduct and process evaluations of students' comprehension, learning needs, and academic progress during a lesson, unit, or course. For example, is the metacognition table. At the end of the class, each student answers the following questions presented to them on index cards. For example is, what did we do in class? What did we do? Why we do it? What did I learn today? How can I apply it? So those are the examples of metacognition table. For the phase 9, we have the review and the reteach. Examine or assess something formally with the possibility or intention of instituting change of necessary. For phase 10, we have the mastery learning. Mastery learning is a method of instruction where the focus is on the role of feedback in learning. Furthermore, mastery learning refers to a category of instructional methods which establishes a level of performance that all students must master before moving on the next unit. For Phase 11, we have the summative assessment of outcomes. When we say summative assessment, refers to the assessment of participants where the focus is on the outcome of the program. This contrasts with the formative assessment, which summarizes the participants' development at a particular time. For example of the summative assessment are essay, report, portfolio, dissertation, and presentation. This is the end of my report. Thank you for listening.